Okay.
Hold on, I've got to get to the right. 319, and from the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, I'm going to read. No, hold on. I'm on my Kindle. I have multiple sources to read from this morning. It's because 319 in the Patanjali ones don't give us any commentary, as he's done for the last few, as if these sutras are self-explanatory, which to me they're not. So 19, he says, by samyama on the distinguishing signs of other bodies, knowledge of their mental images is obtained. So I suppose that's understandable, but the explanation from the Yoga Sutras, inside the Yoga Sutras, there's an explanation which I'll read, and then I've got a third one if we want to look at that too. So even the translations, the same here, different in this third book. So by samyama on the distinguishing signs of others' bodies, knowledge of their mental images is obtained. Okay. There is the story about Abraham Lincoln that took place when he was interviewing potential personal assistants. After meeting with one man who seemed to be ideal for the position, Mr. Lincoln's advisor asked if he should go ahead and hire the man. No, I think we should interview a few more. Why? He has impeccable qualifications and experience. I didn't like his face, replied the chief executive. You didn't like his face? I don't understand. Is that any reason not to hire him? After all, why should he be faulted for how he looks? The president replied with a question. How old is he? 40 years old. That's right, 40 years old. Any man 40 years old is responsible for his own face. Okay. President Lincoln was utilizing basic human skills. We do it ourselves when we form initial impressions of individuals largely based on two visible factors. Their physical structural features, which have manifested due to past karmas. Past thoughts and actions help shape our physical features. Facial expressions, the way their minds hold those features in place. We have an instinctive reaction, in part due to biological impulses, to the physical appearance of others and form conscious or subconscious impressions concerning at least some aspects of their character. For example, we may be wary of people whose eyes are too close together, or instinctively know that the person whose shoulders are habitually hunched up around their ears is a fearful type. The fact that people's appearance can be so different when they sleep, when the conscious mind releases its hold to the subconscious, demonstrates that the content of the mind helps arrange the physical structures of their face. In other words, the character of the individual determines facial expressions and body language. By samyama, the yogi can more deeply and accurately tune into all these signs and even more subtle ones to gain knowledge of the nature of the mind of an individual. So I thought that was an interesting take on what the sutra meant. And do we want a third commentary or a third book? Let me know. Or do we want to discuss that?
Sure, read the third one. I'm curious to see what it says.
Right, so this one is from the Yoga Sutras commentary by Edwin Bryant. And his translation, he does different translation on them. He says, from their ideas, one can attain knowledge of others' minds. This sutra is understood differently by different commentators. Vakaspati, Misra, and Boya Raja read it as indicating that by performing samyama on other people's pratyayas, ideas, notions, and mental images, one can attain an understanding of their minds. Chitta Yanam, Bhoja Raja states more specifically that performing samyama on a person's facial countenance and expression, a yogi can understand the person's state of mind. Obviously, anyone can do this to some extent. One can detect fear or desire or anger from a person's facial expression. So this siddhi would seem to be an extension of this ability. Vijayanana Bhikkhu and Hariharanda, however, read this sutra as indicating that by samyama on one's own mind, one can then understand other people's minds. One is reminded of the Buddha's reference to the siddhi described here. In Pali Buddhist sources, the state of Chittoparyananam allows the adept to know the minds of others' beings by penetrating them with his own mind. He knows the greedy mind as greedy, and so on. So that's the translation from Edwin Bryant. So looking at, you know, being a mind reader, I guess. So I think I can understand Carrera's commentary a little better, that it's an extension of that kind of being able to read facial expressions, because if you're in tune with yourself, you can often be in tune with other people a little bit more and know people. You can start to, I don't know, be in tune with the energy that other people give off a little bit more, I think. I mean, I know I've had that experience myself, why there's people that you meet and you can't explain it, but there's something either positive or negative. You can't even explain why, but you just get the sense that they're just a good person, or, you know, or you get a sense that, oh, there's something, I don't know what it is, but there's something not right there, and you're on the lookout for it. I know I've had that myself. And I try to put it aside when I have it on a negative way. I try to put it aside always and say that's not fair. But there is this kind of gut feeling sometimes that you get about people. Usually you're right. But I'm guessing that if you work with the meditation, if you're working on your meditation so much that you experience samyama, which I haven't, but if you know, if I was to predict that you have more of that ability to know people. What do you think?
I think about Amanda during yoga teacher training when she could go around the room, because she's an Ayurvedic practitioner, and be like, this is your constitution, that's yours, this is yours. Like, you can just tell, and then you're trained to like see as an Ayurvedic practitioner, like, and then you start learning about how the body holds, I guess, trauma, but also just like so much of your emotions, and like how you can tell how someone's, if their hips are open or not, just from sitting.
Right.
Or the way they slouch their shoulders. So like, I guess for this sutra, I think of that stuff where it's like, because then I would be like, oh my God, Amanda's gonna know all the stuff, because it's like, to me, it's almost like a psychic ability or like a mind reader.
Yeah.
Because
and I think people who are very enlightened, people who are gone further along that path, do have that ability somehow to just know what you're thinking based on.
It was like a little scary for me with that, because I'd walk around and be like, who else knows this stuff? Who else knows what's going on?
Just by looking at me, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty, and then like, but then it does make sense. Like, you can tell someone's in a bad mood by looking at their face, you know, like you don't even have to read, especially people that you know really well. But even when you start this practice, like, it's like you feel their energy, but really it's like a physical thing just by looking at their face. Even when they're smiling and you know it's not like a real smile, like you know something. I don't know, that's what I'm getting out of this. Like, I read this on Friday, this sutra, and like I immediately was like, we could never do that. Like I could never just not hire somebody at my job because of the way they looked. No. Even if our gut is saying that. But it does make sense. Like if someone's not taking care of themselves, it's gonna show up in their body, I guess, right? Like, right. Not taking care of themselves, then what else does that say about them, I guess? Same for myself. Like I could speak to myself. Like I know I can look in the mirror and be like, I need to eat healthier. This, like you can, it shows up in your body.
It definitely does. It shows up in your skin. I know that, you know, like I often have like frown marks here. When I look at myself in the mirror, I'll go, why am I frowning? No reason to be frowning. And it's often a concentration. Like it's not anger. It's not anything other than concentration. But it does look like, you know, I do think about that. It does look like there's something else going on. But I find it interesting that even little kids can read you. Like I know my kindergartners will say, they know if you're upset, they know if you're not happy, they know, you know, I had a little boy last year who would say, you're not very happy about that, are you? You know? And I was saying, you're absolutely right, I'm not. You know, and I hadn't raised my voice, I hadn't done anything, you know, to show it, but he would see it in my face. They just know. And not all of the kids would say it the way he did, but he would make me laugh all the time. But he was right, you know, and it was usually him that had done something, and he would know that it hadn't made me happy. But I just thought it was interesting. I thought, Ashley, what? I don't know. I just have a feeling that you can do this.
Yeah. So in the practicing the marma and stuff, I guess it's because I've gone through like so many things in my own body, like so many changes, that when I practice marma, I can tell like there are some times where I can feel that there are like very deep, long-lasting traumatic wounds like stored up in people's bodies. And I definitely have had a lot of those experiences where I can like feel the energy stuck in there.
Wow.
Yeah. And I remember being a kid. It's so funny that you're talking about kids, but I remember being a kid and my mom would make this face when she's watching a movie or something, like the frown face, like she would just be, and I'm like, why is she so angry? Like, what? Right. But it's true. I think kids especially are like really, really sensitive to that.
For sure.
I just
back to the energies chart that you showed us. Kids, I think, are so super tuned into the energies that we give off, and they absorb it. They, you know, my example again, it always goes back to the classroom. There's so many examples there. If I'm mad at something that's happened, you know, in the faculty room with my boss or something like that, I have to be able to shake that off before I walk into the classroom, because it just transfers right over to the kids if I don't, you know, and the whole day would be awful if I wasn't able to shake it off myself and walk in and turn on what I need to turn on when I go into the classroom, because it's like a wave, and they just take it on, and the whole day would be bad, you know?
Yeah, it's so true.
Yeah. Sorry, Micheline.
Oh, that's okay. No, I was going to say what Pam was saying in YTT with Ayurveda, when we do the doshas, I remember like in my head going, oh man, that makes so much sense, because the change of the shape of the face, like my face used to be rounder, and that's more pitta, and I used to be so and that was if you look at my face, like the shape of my face have completely changed. And I used to think, oh my God, like having a kid just like took my cheeks away. And it wasn't. It was all this overload of pitta that I had in my body.
That's funny. Well, Amanda takes our pulse too and can kind of tell you everything just from taking your pulse, which is
Yep, which is mind blowing.
not just taking your heartbeat when she takes your pulse. She's reading a whole lot more things than that.
She just hopped on.
It's so maybe she has more to add to this.
Hi, I don't know what you're talking about.
We've just been talking about you.
Oh, I'm sorry. The kid was up at like 3:30, and then I slept through. I'm sorry. What was you talking about?
We're talking about 319, which is that you can attain knowledge of others' minds by Samyama. And we feel that you do that. You can kind of read our minds.
Oh, the Ayurveda stuff, you mean?
Well, that and just in general.
Well, my teacher told me when I was learning Ayurveda, she said, you will start doing this and everybody will say, are you a psychic? How do you know these things about me? And she said, it's not that. You can just read someone from their body and it was cool because they didn't have any diagnostic machines, right? Like you couldn't go and get an MRI back then to find out what was wrong inside. So they came up with all these other things like, what does your tongue look like and your secretions? And I've been, I was watching with my father last night, 2020, is that the show? 2020? And they were doing this thing on like the gut microbiome, and there's the scientist who came in and he was like so excited it looked like he was going to throw up, and he's going on about how he's like, nobody knows, but the microbiome feeds all the other tissues. It could affect your nervous system and your bones and he's like going on and on. And I turned to my dad, I'm like, well, maybe Americans will like eventually catch up with Ayurveda. They knew about that thousands of years ago.
Right.
It's like,
right.
And I'm sitting there watching and I'm like, I feel like I know all the secrets of the universe, but it's like, it's right there in all the textbooks. Like you can just open up an Ayurveda textbook and look at the diagnostics, and it's cool. It's cool. Like the body gives you, every symptom is showing you something deeper inside. It's pretty amazing. Yeah. But no, it's not mind reading. Sadly.
So when we were looking at another translation, it was saying that when you read people's faces, but you do that too.
Yeah, I guess that's interesting. Yeah. I guess that's what that Swami said to me, right? Where he's like, it's not magical if you know how the technology works. But it's not such a big deal.
Right.
I feel though too, like this can be completely misread for someone who doesn't meditate and like has not done any work that they need to do and just use it from their own negative space. Like, you know what I mean? Like if someone is in a grouchy space and they're like this and they see someone doing this, and then to them that's like you're all negative, and that person could just be thinking like being biased of their negative experiences, and because they're stuck in a negative space.
I did have a friend who had this, and she was really creepy. I loved her, but we lived together. Like I would be singing a song in my head and then she would start singing it out loud. You know what I mean? Like she would finish my sentences, or she would like say what I was like. She had this accidentally. She was a very, very deep meditator, but she would be able to like, she would say it would almost feel like it was her own thoughts that were occurring to her. Wow. I always thought that was like an interesting, weird. A lot of this stuff was weird.
I feel like we are taught though, because the example in the career book is about Abraham Lincoln not wanting to hire an executive assistant because of the way his face looks. And the guy is 40 years old and he should be taking care of himself by now. And so I feel like we're taught not to judge people by the way they look, which is fair, because if we're not doing it as trained practitioners, then we are doing it by being taught all these external biases. But if we're doing it in a fair way, like an Ayurvedic way, and you're trained, which is how we should be trained, then it is fair not to judge people, but to really get a read on people. And I feel like so many people don't want to be read by their truth. They want to tell a different story than what's really going on. So they steer us away from this practice, right? Like,
Yeah.
and like I always, when I was younger, I'd always stand like this, and it looks like I have an attitude. Like I'd be like standing against the wall, and my mom would be like, "Drop your arms." But I did it as like a protective thing, and like I was always cold. Like it wasn't like I was doing it with the intention of like, I'm gonna stand here and have an attitude. But then I eventually did develop the attitude, like with this. But like, and I catch myself still. I'll stand like this, and I'm like, I know people are judging me, but I'm cool. So like, this is how I wore myself up. Like I put my hair down and I cross my arms. So I do, like, yeah, there's certain things we're trained to think like, oh, just because she has her arms crossed, she's standing there with an attitude on her. Like that's our bias. That's not like a true judgment, I guess.
Well, in Ayurveda, there's a deep compassion that we're taught, and it's the same as what we learn in yoga. That in the cell, we teach that there's the 5 elements, but there's also spirit present, and we're judging the body, but with the understanding that the individual is not just their body, that their body might have some kind of imbalances, but it doesn't define who they are. My husband's always like so irritated with me because I'm saying all this weird, like, well, you're not your body, and like you're misidentifying who you truly but right. That's what Ayurveda teaches. It's like if you're disconnected from your spirit, then all of the elements are going to get into disarray anyway. So like every emotion we're having is an emanation of something going on in the material mind, which also emanates from the material body. So like, yeah, I guess we are judging, but not in a way that people who don't have an understanding of yoga judge. It's like a surface thing. It's like, oh, okay, this is what your body's doing right now, but you're not your body. You're this beautiful, perfect thing inside. And I think people feel that when you're working with an Ayurvedic practitioner who's like really a really good Ayurvedic practitioner. They always say stuff like, oh, don't worry, you'll be okay. Like you could come in and they're like, they know you have like terminal cancer, and they say, don't worry, you will be fine. Because essentially you will be fine, you know, and like they feel so confident in that you can bring the body back to balance. Like my teacher has reversed like the most insane diseases in people where multiple doctors have told them like, you're gonna die, there's nothing you can do, just get ready for your death. And they go to her and she's like so calm, and she's like, don't worry, you will be fine. Reconnect to who you truly are. And I think that's what the beauty of all this is. It's like a way of transcending the material. It's like if you don't know about the rules of the material, you're going to really suffer from it, right? Like you're going to be mired in terrible suffering. Your body's not going to work right. You're going to be sick all the time. Your energy levels are going to suck. And you're just going to be in a foul mood all the time because of that. Like they're starting to find, it's another thing that makes me laugh. Like I read something about this other psychologist who was like so excited. He's like, we just found out that a magnesium deficiency can cause mood disorders. It's like, well, yeah. Ayurveda knew about that for thousands of years. Like it's just, if you have the deficiency, it's going to change your mood and your emotions and your hormones and your mind eventually. And it's like, don't worry, if we can get you balanced, you'll be okay. Like, there's nothing wrong with you if you have an imbalanced mind. There's nothing, because you're perfect. It's like such a beautiful way of looking at the world.
Yeah.
It's a relief.
Mm.
I guess as yoga teachers, we're supposed to try to get everybody to that vision, right? It's hard though. We're in a world with a lot of people who are they're stuck in their material. They're so stuck in their material. They're causing so much suffering to themselves, and it's leaking out onto everybody else. But I don't know, I'm starting to feel hopeful. I see that people are like not even engaging anymore. They're like, oh, you're a racist? Okay, well, I'm stepping over you and I'm going to fix the world anyway. That's like brilliant. Because for such a long time, so many people have been oppressed, and it's not just people of color. It's like so many people have been oppressed by other people, and I think it's just getting to the point where our generation is like done. It's like, we're not going to feel shamed anymore. We're not going to feel like, if you're taking my voice away, I'm going to let you. It's like, nope, just stepping over it now. So it's making me feel hopeful. Maybe things will change. Sorry, I didn't mean to come in and dominate the conversation.
No.
We were talking about you before you were even on anyway, and your capabilities. Mind reading.
Do we want to read the next one or do some?
I think we just do breath and then start meditation.
Just do breath. Yeah.
Yeah, otherwise we'll be rushing it.
Yeah. Okay, so find a comfortable place to sit. Settle your body. Take a full breath in and a full breath out. We'll do alternate nostril breathing using the right hand, using the right thumb to close the right nostril. Breathe in through the left. Close both. Breathe out right. Breathe in right. Close both. Breathe out left. Breathe in left. Close both. Breathe out right. Breathe in right. Close both. Breathe out left. Breathe in left. Close both. Breathe out right. Breathe in right. Close both. Breathe out left. Continue like that on your own for 5 more rounds. Ending breathing out of the left nostril. Perhaps having a pause or a retention at the end of the inhale or at the end of the exhale if that's comfortable for you. And when we finish our own 5 rounds, you can gently settle into your meditation or concentration practice for the morning, and I will set the timer for 20 minutes so that we know when to end.
Gently bringing yourself back to the room, bringing your hands to your heart, bowing your head. Namaste.
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 Say thank you. Have a good day, everybody.
Namaste.
Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Jackie.
Jackie. Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you. And Micheline, if you could send me that video.
I sent them already.
Oh,
I sent them while we were talking about it.
oh,
Hopefully
okay.
it helps. But yeah,
That's-
I've had it before. And usually Vata, dizziness is affected by Vata too.
Right.
So
Yeah.
coconut oil, and I took ashwagandha. It went away pretty fast.
Okay.
I mean, my dad, it's something that my dad gets too, but when he gets it, it takes him days. But then again, he doesn't take care of himself, so.
Right. Well, last week was a weird week. I had a back pain at the beginning of the week that was debilitating, that I wasn't able to sit. And then that passed after about 3 days. And then this started. So I was like worried that it was something to do with my spine, because the back pain hasn't gone completely, but there's something not right. But I'll definitely try the videos and hopefully that'll help, because
And your back pain, is it like lower back pain?
it was, I think it's the SI joint, because it was down into the groin on my right hand side and I couldn't sit so where, the sits bones part, I couldn't sit on that side. I had to sit so that was elevated, because I couldn't put any pressure on that side. I couldn't walk up the stairs using that leg. It was really, really intense for a couple of days, and then it went away. So that's bizarre too.
I think
I
a lot of
iced.
it.
I iced onto the SI joint. I think that's what it is, and I think I might have to find a chiropractor around here. I haven't gone back to I used to go to a chiropractor quite regularly. I haven't gone for a couple of years.
I have a female, well, not that she's female, but I love her. She's in Franklin Square.
Okay.
If you need, like, I can send you her number too. And I know she's seeing people.
Oh, okay. If she takes my insurance, then that might be a good.
If you text me your insurance, my friend works at her front desk. I will text it over. You know what I mean? Like, you don't even have to call. I'll just text it over to my friend.
Okay.
I did. I know Sujin went to her when she was pregnant, and it helped. I haven't been in a while, but she's helped me a lot when my back goes out.
Mm-hmm.
She's the one who gets me back together.
Yeah, a chiropractor down in Long Beach had said to me, when that pain goes into the groin, it's usually the SI joint and not your lower back. But my actual spine is sore, like the vertebrae. If I touch the vertebrae, I'm not sure if it's higher than the SI joint or if it's the actual spine at times, not always, but it's actually tender and sore. So I don't know. Something's, and I think in the last few months I've been taking care of myself because I've not been doing anything else. So I don't know what's
Maybe
going
it's emotional stuff.
I don't know.
I know emotional stuff does a number on me like nothing else. That's why Thursday I was crying in our backyard because I got into a whole thing with my husband because I was playing with the frisbee with my son and we hit a lemon tree and he got all pissed and I was so upset because I really wanted to turn into the Hulk and break all his freaking plants. Because, time with my kid, like your kid is more important than any freaking plant.
Yeah, really.
And then I was sobbing outside. And Friday I woke all jacked up and it just got worse and worse and worse. But
I don't know. I mean, I'm worried about Darren, but I'm not so worried that I don't think. He's just not taking care of himself. So
Is he still sleeping all day and waking up and staying up in the middle?
pretty much, and complaining about it, but not doing anything about it. And he's not looking well because he's not eating 3 meals a day. He's not eating with us, you know. The rest of us are all kind of eating pretty well because we're just eating at home and taking care of ourselves. But he's not eating with us very often.
That's your son who was struggling before last year.
Yeah.
Oy.
Yeah.
No.
Maybe he needs to get back to work.
Maybe some people need routine.
He has to get called. Yeah, he has. I think he does, but he has to get called back to work, and he's not in any fit state to go out into the world right now because if he was to come in contact with the virus, he would be very sick because he's not healthy right now.
Because he's not healthy.
Yeah.
Oh,
there is that, but I don't think that's debilitating me. But I felt like my body fell apart last week. Well, for one way or another. But I need to get rid of this.
Last week you guys ended school, right?
No, the week before we ended school, and that's been great. I've signed up for you don't know how many classes online. I'm doing a lot of online learning this summer, but
No, because I was wondering if, when you're pushing through something and you don't feel it, and then you finally get the break and it all hits you.
Yes, well, it could be that. It could be that.
You had a rough couple of months.
It was intense. It was very intense. It was very intense. And that often happens once the school year ends, that you kind of go, and there's all the uncertainty of what the next school year is going to bring. But I'm trying not to let myself think about that too much.
According to the person I spoke to from the district office in our district, because I called, because they changed stuff for homeschooling where we don't have to do a lot of end of the year stuff, but I'm like, I'd rather do the extra work than get it through high school, get and we graduate and then they tell me, oh, in 6th grade you're missing this. So I don't want to take that chance.
Right.
But she said I can't wait for January to be here because my daughter, her daughter was in 7th grade this year, and she's like, my daughter learned nothing, which is, it's terrible. I don't know if she